Welcome into the NFL opening line report for week number 16. I am Drew Martin, joined as always by Teddy Covers, getting you on the right side of some of these moves, both sides and totals for the upcoming NFL week. Without further ado, Teddy Covers, welcome on in, buddy. Happy Monday morning to you.
Yeah, it's not that happy a Monday, Drew. I got my ass kicked all weekend, and then I was shaving before I came on the show, and of course I sliced my nose open, so hopefully I won't bleed too bad. I got the tissue here just in case. But unfortunately, yeah, it was not a good weekend. That's putting it mildly. It was a really awful weekend for myself and my clients. You're never in a good mood on Monday when that happens. That being said, bad weekends can and will happen. And unfortunately, yesterday I threw out my winners and kept my losers, and my losers were frustrating and yada, yada. So what do we do on a Monday? We put it in the rearview mirror and focus ahead on this week. Can't do anything about what happened yesterday, but we can do plenty about what's going to happen here in week 16. So ready to break it down with you, Drew. 18 games because we got 2 on Monday night.
Absolutely, Teddy. No bye weeks. And guys, only a couple weeks left in the regular season. As you mentioned here, Teddy, we got 2 Monday nighters, and we are doing this, as always, guys, Monday morning. So before we get into the opening line report, we got the Chicago Bears, Minnesota Vikings, minus 744 being the total. And we got the Atlanta Falcons, Las Vegas Raiders, Teddy. Falcons minus 5.5, minus 6, 44 and a hook being the total. 2 games simultaneous, 30 minutes in between them. Well, in terms of when they're kicking off. But anything quickly on the Monday nighters before we get into the OLR?
So the books are clearly struggling to attract money for either of the 2 underdogs in tonight's game. We've seen the Vikings open 6, 6.5. There are even 5.5s out there at the open. Now we're seeing pretty much 7s across the board there for Minnesota. So we've seen Minnesota money. I don't anticipate any significant buyback on Chicago between now and kickoff. I would not be shocked at all if the Vikings close 7 minus 20 or even 7.5 at some books. As for Atlanta and the Raiders, there really isn't much betting market support for the Raiders right now either. This one opened as low as 3.5. Now I'm seeing 5.5s across the board, 6s popping up in a number of books. So the Raiders, like the Bears, one of the teams that betting markets, the bookmakers are really struggling to attract attention for on a Monday night. Total-wise, we've seen a little bit of under money for Chicago, Minnesota. Nothing doing for Falcons, Raiders. That's been sitting at 44.5 all week.
Great start here, Teddy, as we got the opening line report starting Thursday night, guys, with a good one. AFC West battle here, the Denver Broncos and the LA Chargers. Teddy, we're seeing Chargers minus 3-point home favorites, 42 being the total. Rotation number 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4. Broncos catching 3 on the highway. Last weekend looking pretty good. What are we thinking here, Broncos and Chargers, to kick us off?
Yeah, we like to do the same thing for every show. I'm going to give you 4 sets of lines for each and every one of these ball games. The first one we call the look-ahead line. That's the betting market number for this game before yesterday's games were played. Look-ahead lines, I use it from the Westgate Superbook here in Las Vegas. I'm also going to give you my power rating number for the game. We're going to talk about where it opened last night and where it's sitting this morning. So look-ahead line here for Broncos and the Chargers was Chargers minus 3, minus 120, total of 43.5. My power rating number has the Chargers only 2 in this ball game. The markets opened 3 and 42 last night, and that's basically where we're sitting today, 3 and 42 this morning. You know, I mean, Denver was not a pretty game yesterday. They only had 13 first downs, only 193 total yards. They had 17 third downs. They weren't making a whole lot of big plays, only converted on 6 of them. Bo Nix had his first 3-interception game of his career, and they still won going away. Denver is still perfect as a favorite this season. Lots of concerns. You know, the defense forced 4 turnovers. They got very lucky with Jonathan Taylor fumbling at the 1-inch line. That was the 5th turnover that they forced, or they got. And that was the key play of the game, really. I mean, Denver would have been down 20-7 in the 3rd quarter. And after that fumble from Taylor, the Broncos outscored them 24-7. 24-0 the rest of the way. Bo Nix is their leading rusher yesterday, 8 carries for 23 yards. That's not good. Not good at all in that regard. Just 3.9 yards per pass attempt in yesterday's ball game. But, and worth noting, star cornerback Patrick Surtain limped over to the sideline with a sprained right ankle. Don't have any notes on him yet for today. But The quote from Sean Payton after the win and cover for Denver, it won't be fun looking at the tape. Denver able to survive and advance despite not playing their best game. The Chargers didn't play their best game either, but they weren't surviving and advancing yesterday. Blown out at home by Tampa Bay. Justin Herbert, 5.9 yards per pass attempt. The defense allowed 10.7 yards per pass attempt. Herbert was his first interception since week 2. 357 attempts without a pick. Quote, "It is what it is. I always try to protect the ball, do my best not to put our teams in harm's way. Unfortunately, that one got away from me." That was obviously the 5th longest streak in league history between interceptions, but no running game yesterday. They were outrushed 223-32. They led 17-13 at halftime, got outscored 27-0 after the break. They got outgained by 300 yards. Worst game of the defense worst game of the season for the defense as well. Harbaugh, quote, "It was pretty thorough," talking about the beatdown, very thorough. And now we're staring at that adversity, and it's about how we respond. All faith wasn't good enough today. Bounce back spot for the Chargers. Are they good enough to take advantage? That offense really hasn't worked for the better part of the last month.
Thursday night getting us started, guys. Teddy, great stat there. Week 2 to week 15, no interceptions. Man, I'm surprised that's not the longest in NFL history. But good start here Thursday night. We'll flip the page to Saturday, December 21st. We got 2 games on Saturday. Interesting, the NFL college football playoffs kind of going head-to-head up against each other. Usually don't see that. But either way, Teddy, it's Houston and Kansas City. We are seeing the Texans coming off of that win against the Dolphins. Minus 3-point road favorites, 40 being the total. Interesting point spread here. Texans as the road favorite. I know you're going to get into that, kicking us off on Saturday, TC.
Sure. Look ahead line here. Kansas City -4, total of 44.5. I made a 7-point difference between Patrick Mahomes and his backup, which is, and maybe that's not even enough. Carson Wentz. Didn't know we'd see Carson Wentz ever again in an NFL game, but we did yesterday. Finished 2 for 2 for 20 yards after Mahomes hurt his ankle. Obviously, this is a Patrick Mahomes is not going to play point spread. My number here, again, look ahead 44.5. My number with Mahomes, KC -4.5. Without Mahomes, Houston -2.5. The markets opened, Houston -2.5, 40.5 last night. And we're seeing the threes popping up today, the total getting bet down as well. The betting markets do not respect Carson Wentz, and that's pretty clear with these numbers as Houston now road chalk at Arrowhead. I mean, the Chiefs, they got out to a 21-0 lead yesterday. They were +6 in turnovers and didn't do anything in the second half. 10 wins by 7 points or less. 6 of their wins this season have come on the game's final play. They got Harrison Butker in the back of the lineup, and he missed a short field goal. So the backup kickers have been better. Here's the quote from Patrick Mahomes. Quote, "We'll get into the rehab part, the treatment part, and try to get back on a short week." They play 3 games in 11 days. With all the adrenaline from the game, it's hard to tell now after if he can play. Usually the day after when you get a good sense of it. So the market's not expecting to see Mahomes on Saturday, hence all the Texans' money here, at least for the opener. That being said, the Texans won yesterday only because Miami lost. Their offense really didn't work. Joe Mixon couldn't run the football, 12 carries for 23 yards. C.J. Stroud, 131 yards on 26 pass attempts. He was sacked 4 times. They only had 12 first downs, only had 3.6 yards per play. Houston did not bring their A game on the offense against the Dolphins. Luckily, their defense was able to create turnovers. Luckily for some people, not for me. D'Amico Ryans. Defensively, our guys stepped up and did a really good job of closing out the game the way we needed to. And we like teams that can win in multiple ways. Houston yesterday, despite nothing doing offensively, the defense was good enough. Kansas City, it feels like they've been living on borrowed time for a long time, and yet the Chiefs actually got a win and cover by margin, something they struggled to do for extended stretches this season.
And we got the nightcap up next. It's 3:30 Eastern. No, 4:30 Eastern, I believe. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers and Baltimore Ravens up next. -6, -6.5 here. Mostly 6 in the hooks. That's the Ravens as the home favorite. 45 in the hook being the total. Steelers at Ravens for the second game on Saturday, TC.
Yeah, look headline here. Baltimore -5, total of 47. My powering number, Baltimore -6. The markets opened 6.5 and 46.5 last night. And that's basically what we're seeing today. We've seen some under money, 46.5 bet down to 45.5, even 45s popping up for Steelers Ravens right now. So the first market move on this game has been towards the under. And I mean, Pittsburgh, pretty dismal offensively yesterday. Russell Wilson, just 128 passing yards. Team just had 56 rushing yards. No George Pickens certainly mattered for that offense. That being said, they were down 20-13. They were driving. It was 1st and 10 from the Philly 26, and they were about to make a game of it. And then Russell Wilson pitched, I think it was Jalen Warren, and Warren didn't catch it. Philly got a touchdown on the next drive, and Pittsburgh never really threatened. Again, they only had 10 first downs for the game there. Time of possession, 40-20 in favor of Philadelphia. 7-2 their last 9 games. They still clinched a playoff spot in defeat because the Dolphins and Colts both lost. TJ Watt injured. That could potentially be an impact injury. He had 2 sacks and a forced fumble before he was hurt in that ball game. Mike Tomlin, we had a game to play today. We wanted to win it. We didn't. Some of the other stuff is less relevant to us, talking about gaining the playoff spot despite the fact that they didn't play well. So we got Pittsburgh off a loss, which has been a bet on scenario. The Ravens looked pretty good yesterday. I mean, Lamar Jackson, 4 incomplete passes versus 5 touchdowns. That's a pretty good ratio. 4 incompletes, 5 TD passes. He did have an early fumble from the Giants' 12-yard line, and that kind of set the tone for the game. Lamar, afterwards, quote, "I started out slow with that turnover. I was hot about that. I was ticked off. I just had to lock in and play Ravens football, and that's what we did." So the early miscue ended up, in effect, motivating Baltimore. And again, yards per play, 7.5 on offense, only 3.9 allowed on defense. It's a stretch of 3 games in 11 days for Baltimore. They got to manage minutes. Harbaugh, after the game, quote, talking about Lamar Jackson, "He's been locked in all season, all week. He's on the guys in meetings, walkthroughs, everything. He's keeping it about football, and he's getting the football right." The Ravens very much looking like a Super Bowl contender in the AFC, despite Kansas City and Buffalo both ahead of them in the standings.
Great breakdown, TC. Man, 3 games in 11 days. Something to watch there with the Ravens. As we'll turn the page here. Sunday, December 22nd. Top of the card, 101, 102. Cleveland and Cincinnati. It is the Bengals, TC. -7-point home favorites. 49 in the hook being the total. Browns, Bengals. First game up on Sunday.
And I apologize. I didn't do this is one of these games that was flexed in and flexed out, and I don't have my powering number for it. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. I can create one fairly quickly because I got Teddy, my powering numbers right here. Cincinnati,
sure,
and Cleveland, 3.5, 5. My powering number in the game is 5.5. Markets look headline was Bengals 6.5, 50.5. My powering number is 5.5. The markets opened 7/49.5 last night, and we're looking at 7/49.5 this morning. Not a lot doing with this game in early betting action. Don't know who's going to start here for Cleveland. Maybe I should have. Maybe I have the Browns not. Their defense played okay yesterday. Look, Jameis came in and threw picks. He threw 3 interceptions after in 25 pass attempts, 146 yards, and he got benched. And Dorian Thompson-Robinson came in, and he was even worse, 4 of 9 for 18 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interceptions. The offense had 6 turnovers. Defense didn't force any. Kevin Stefanski, you cannot turn the ball over 6 times and expect to win at any level. That being said, they were all over Mahomes. They pressured Mahomes 21 times in that game. That's the most he's been pressured all season. But the offense didn't work. And that may well be the case moving forward. The Bengals offense is working. I mean, they had 4 turnovers yesterday. They had 14 penalties for 113 yards, and they won the game by double digits, which speaks to the fact their defense created 10 turnovers. They created 6 turnovers, turned those 6 turnovers into 24 straight points in the middle of the game. They had a pick 6 in the third, and they just missed out on more points. They had a 61-yard fumble return, except for that Jordan Battle fumbled just before crossing the goal. It ended up being a touchback in that ball game. Zach Taylor, quote, "Unacceptable, but really happy the way the defense got the turnovers. 6 turnovers, 3 of them in the second half was huge for us. It was a strange game that way." Burrow now has 3 touchdown passes in 6 straight games. Only quarterbacks with more: Tom Brady, Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, Dan Marino. Burrow's having an MVP caliber season. The defense surrounding him has not been MVP caliber thus far this year. Cleveland, defensively, they're all right. Funny game. Interesting game. Again, 7 is sitting right now, 49.5. Bengals are very much an over team. Browns, not so much in that regard, especially when Jameis is forcing picks and the defense is playing like they did yesterday.
Getting the Sunday card going. Shout out to the chat box. Everybody chiming in. Jamar from Texas. Shout out to you. Have Cash. B Daddy in the house. Roger Long as well. All you guys, feel free to chime in. Any questions, fire away as well. What you're looking at, where you agree, where you disagree, all is welcome. If you're watching on replay, feel free to comment in the comments below. We'll answer any questions on next week's show, guys. Shout out to you as well. Coin is, we're moving down the list here. 107, 108, Detroit Lions, Chicago Bears. Lions -6 in the hook, -7, kind of a split line here, Teddy. 46 in a hook being the total in Soldier.
Look ahead line here, Detroit -7.5, total 48.5. My powering number has the Lions -8. The markets opened 7 and 47 last night, and we're seeing 6.5 today. And again, this week's number with Chicago against Minnesota looked a little bit low. And we talked about it last week on the show and saying, yeah, my powering number is a little bit higher. And I'm not the only one that I talked to around town this week that said, yeah, we're seeing the Bears being powered a little bit higher in the broader markets than in a lot of our individual power ratings. Of course, Detroit's coming off a loss, which is a motivator, particularly when you're talking about trying to get home field advantage in the NFC. And look, they still won first downs, another 30 first downs for Detroit yesterday, man. That offense is a machine. 5 for 5 red zone touchdowns. You know, Jared Goff playing from behind, 38 completions, 494 yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks. Impressive offensively, although much of that was when they were trailing by margin against Buffalo because the defense couldn't get any stops. And they gave up 8.2 yards per play yesterday. Hard to win games as a favorite when you're allowing 8.2 yards per play. And to make things worse for Detroit, note this is a team that has suffered a ton of defensive injuries. They could have lost 3 players with potential season-ending injury yesterday. The defensive tackle, Aleem McNeil, the cornerback, Carlton Davis, the defensive back, Khalil Dorsey, all potentially season-ending injuries yesterday. That's bad news for a defense that has, we know Detroit can score. We worry about Detroit getting stops, and that hasn't been the case for extended stretches this season. The Vikings, Monday Night Football against, the Bears, Monday Night Football against the Vikings tonight. They're 0-7 since that Hail Mary fail against Washington. They had the 3 tight losses, Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit, in division, all by a field goal or less. And then last week, blown out by San Francisco. Another divisional game tonight. The Bears look good, if they look good. I still think Detroit closes 7. I do. I know there's 6.5s out there right now. For the Lions. If you like the Lions, I wouldn't hesitate to get one of those sooner rather than later. If Chicago looks bad tonight, it'll be 7 everywhere or higher by tomorrow. If the Bears are competitive tonight, it could be a different story. But I don't think it's going to be any lower than 6.5 for Detroit. And again, you can find a couple of those right now. DraftKings has one as we speak. Westgate has one as we speak. MGM has one as we speak. They may not be there for all that much longer.
109, 110 up next. Arizona Cardinals. We are the Cardinals -4 point favorites, 47 being the total. Arizona at Carolina next game up.
Yeah, look ahead line here. Arizona -4.5, 46.5. My powering number, Arizona -4. The markets opened 4 and 46.5 last night, and that's exactly where we're sitting this morning. So the look ahead, my power rating, the opener, the current, all in this same basic range of Arizona as 4-point chalk. And Arizona's, in one sense, they're a simple handicap. When they can run, they win. When they can't run, Kyler Murray's not carrying the offense, and they struggle mightily in the red zone. But yesterday, snapped a 3-game losing streak. James Conner, 16 carries for 110 yards. He finished with 163 yards on the ground. And that led to 10 of 15 third down conversions, third and shorts, and they're converting. They didn't allow a single third down conversion all game for what it's worth. Kyler Murray, I think that was the key, staying on schedule. We're hard to stop when we're staying on the field on third downs. in some ways, this box score lies because the yards per play has the Pats 6.3 and the Cardinals 6.2. But Arizona led this game 23-3 in the fourth quarter, and at least half of New England's yards came in garbage time. Couple of key injuries for Arizona. 5 plays into the game, they lost 2 starting linebackers to injury. Mac Wilson and Jesse Luketa both got hurt early. Jonathan Gannon after the game, quote, "It's a cool thing for me. Roles change like that in the ball game, but they step up, play good football. We got a lot of versatile guys who can play." So a team that certainly has some positive attitude after snapping that skid yesterday. Then again, now they have to win by margin on the highway back east, which is not always the easiest thing. Bryce Young yesterday finally had, not finally, but there was some regression. 19-28, 219, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. He was sacked 6 times. And again, concept is the same in many ways for Arizona and Carolina. When Carolina can run the football, they can win games. Yesterday, Chuba Hubbard only 10 of 32. The team got outrushed 211-60, and they committed 4 turnovers. And when you get outrushed by that type of margin and you commit 4 turnovers, it's not going to happen. 6 sacks yesterday, the most allowed by Carolina all season. And a couple of fumbles from Young as well in that ballgame. Dave Canales afterwards said that that Bryce Young will remain Carolina's starting quarterback next week, saying he didn't see his young quarterback's confidence waver. Quote, "He had a good look in his eyes. I was looking forward to continue being aggressive and find those opportunities down the field moving forward." So Canales giving Bryce Young a vote of support after yesterday's game. Arizona's defense, not always the easiest to move the football against. The Cardinals' defense has been something of an overachieving unit this season. Let's check those linebacker injuries for Arizona moving forward, because that's one of those deals that will certainly affect their ability to contain Chuba Hubbard, who is the focal point of Carolina's offense right now.
AFC East battle up next, 111-112, as we're going down in rotation order, although I am seeing this an afternoon kick, 1 p.m. Pacific, Teddy. New England and Buffalo. Buffalo minus 2 touchdowns here, minus 14-point home favorites, 46 in the hook being the total. Patriots at Bills.
Yeah, look ahead line here, Bills minus 13.5, total 45.5. That's right where my power rating is 13.5. The market's open 14 on this ball game, and they've held at 14 on this ballgame, 46.5 the opening total, and 46 the opening total now. We've seen some over money here up to 46.5. But again, we're talking about a half-point move on a total early in the week. It's not taking a whole lot of money compared to what it would take to move most NFL lines at latter portions, of the opener. Again, so when a line moves, when a total moves 46 to 46.5, yeah, that's a move. But it's not anything that I'm like, oh my God, there's heavy money coming in on this side. That could easily be a one group with a betting opinion. For New England, I guess there were some positive signs yesterday. Drake May only had 4 completions, 19 to 23 for 202. Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson combined for more than 5 yards per carry, 20 carries for 102 yards. And again, the yards per play basis, the 6.3 New England, 6.2 Arizona, positive for New England. But again, 311 total yards. I think nearly half of them came in the fourth quarter. They were down by 20 in the fourth. They've lost 4 straight. They went 0 for 6 on third downs. Drake May, it's a long flight back. You can't do nothing else except think about the game, watch the game on your iPad, think about the week, talk to a guy that maybe makes a difference in the game. New England a little bit frustrated right now. Yesterday's game, not a good performance, and certainly going to Buffalo. Yeah, they've been competitive in division games, but the Patriots from a talent standpoint still rank among the weakest teams in the NFL. Josh Allen, what a road trip for the Bills offense. All right. Buffalo's won 8 of their last 9. All right. They've beaten the 2-time defending Super Bowl champs, Kansas City, during that span. Yesterday, going into Detroit, beating the Lions straight up. Defense held Detroit 15 carries for 48 yards in that ball game. Sean McDermott. It's rare air up there with the best teams. That's how we're going to have to play every week moving forward. Now, defensively, they've given up 40 points in each of the last 2 weeks. The only other team in history of the NFL to score 40-plus and give up 40-plus in consecutive games, How about the 1966 New York Giants? It doesn't happen very often, like the two shootouts we've seen Buffalo in for back-to-back weeks. That being said, they just became the first team since 2013, the 2013 Broncos, to score 30-plus points in 8 straight games. Most points that Detroit's allowed all season. This, my friends, is an offense that is clicking on all cylinders. Although, again, after back-to-back near-perfect games, do we see a third one? 46.5. The early money says expect points.
Going way back there, the old 1966 New York Giants. As we'll move down the list here and talk some NFC East, Teddy, Philadelphia and Washington. We are seeing the Eagles -3. There is 3 and a hook out there as the road favorite. 45.5 being the total. Eagles at Commanders from our nation's capital.
Look ahead line here, Philly -3 and 47.5. My powering number is 3 as well. Markets open 3.5/4 on Philadelphia, total of 46. And we've seen the 4s get taken out. We've seen a lot of the 3.5s get taken out. The money coming for Washington as we speak. As many 3s with juice as 3.5s out there on the Eagles right now. So certainly the Commanders have taken at least a little bit of early money around this key number from the open. And we've seen a little bit of under money, not a ton, but a little bit of under money here as well. 46 at the open, 47.5 at the look ahead, 45.5 this morning. Now, Philly's passing game worked really well yesterday. All the Eagles passing game doesn't work. Well, A.J. Brown, 8 for 110. Devonta Smith, 11 for 109. They both caught a touchdown pass. Saquon Barkley was banged up, and he was contained. Only 19 of 65. The passing game carried the offense. 10 of 17 on third downs, 1 of 1 on fourth downs. All those, and this wasn't like media rumors about Philadelphia's locker room issues. This was the Eagles players actually giving everyone quotes about what the locker room was going on, what was going on in the locker room, and that there were issues, disconnect between Hurts and his receivers. Certainly was not the case yesterday's A.J. Brown, quote, behind closed doors, we talked about it. We called each other out. It was very uncomfortable because we don't want to feel like we're getting attacked. This was our moment to tell everyone to shut up. Yards per play, Philly only 5.2 to 4.0 in a game they dominated. But time of possession, 40 minutes to 20 minutes. You know, Jalen Hurts, worth noting, he does have a broken finger on his non-throwing hand, but it's not a big factor. Jalen Hurts, quote, scrutiny is never ending. It's nothing new. That's something that I can find a thrill in. I appreciate being told I can't and that we can't. I know that I lead this team and it takes a lot out of it. It demands a lot out of you. So Philly, you know, for all the criticism that they faced yesterday, certainly an impressive win against a Pittsburgh team that doesn't get smacked around very often. And the Eagles, as hot as anyone in the NFL right now. Whereas Washington, I mean, Jaden Daniels got sacked 8 times yesterday. They only had 4.4 yards per play. Brian Robinson was shut down on the ground. 2 key injuries offensively. The center, Tyler, this guy's been in the league since years, and I still mess up his name. Biadasz is the center. He was sick and ruled out before kickoff, and then Zach Ertz, left with concussion syndromes, and the offense really struggled for extended stretches. It was, Dan Quillen called it a frustrating combination of penalties and missed opportunities. Quote, when you got those, you really put yourself in a bad spot. We have lots to clean up, but we've been in lots of close games. We've been battle hardened, and certainly. Washington was lucky to win the game. It was a bad execution on the 2-point conversion attempt for New Orleans, but Washington kind of went into the bye week and kind of came out a little bit. It wasn't their best effort yesterday. One would anticipate with Philadelphia on the slate and a game where they were lucky to win a day ago that we would see perhaps a better performance from Washington. That being said, maybe this team was a hot start first half and not so hot down the stretch. Certainly, the early money says the markets think Washington are likely to be better this week than they were in that win over New Orleans.
115, 116 up next, guys. It's the New York Football Giants and the Atlanta Falcons. Early kick here, 10 a.m. Pacific, 42 and a hook being the total, -10. That is the Atlanta Falcons as the home favorite. One of only 3 contests here, Teddy, with a double-digit spread. Also do note the Falcons playing Monday Night Football. Giants at Falcons from the ATL.
Yeah, look at line here. Atlanta -9, total 41.5. My powering number has Atlanta -9 going into Monday Night Football. The markets have opened 10 and 42.5 for this ball game. Although, as you mentioned, it's likely to be adjusted based on what Atlanta looks like on Monday Night Football. Let's not forget the Falcons go into that game 0-4 straight up and against the spread their last four. Although they were all better teams than the Raiders, Minnesota, the Chargers, the Broncos. The first three, they had that one loss by a field goal to New Orleans as well. As for the Giants, I mean, what do you say about the Giants at this stage? Yeah, they had another plane flying above the stadium that read, quote, "Mr. Mara, enough. We won't stop until you fire everyone." Well, firing everyone doesn't always help. And from a talent standpoint, the Giants have problems. You know, it doesn't matter if it's Tommy DeVito or Tim Boyle as the starting quarterback. Both played yesterday. DeVito finished with 5.2 yards per pass attempt, Boyle with 5.1. Neither one is a capable NFL starting quarterback. When it comes to weapons, I mean, Malik Neighbors is their only weapon. He's a rookie, so there's hope for him in the future. Tyrone Tracy yesterday and Devin Singletary couldn't run the football, 18 of 56, a long of 12. Again, they gained 3.9 yards per play on offense, and they gave up 7.5 on defense. Brian DeBall after the game. I mean, these guys are doing everything they can do. Ran into a good football team with a lot of good football players and then played well, and we didn't play well. Evan Neal, quote, offensive tackle, it doesn't feel good to lose. I just want to get a win at this point. All you can do is get back to the chopping block and work. I don't know if Atlanta's a team I'm ready to lay doubles with. That being said, the Giants are a team waiting for the season to be over and their coach to be fired and their GM to be fired and for a new rebuild to begin. So, I last week on Bennett, I talked about that you can make money with teams with quote unquote nothing to play for. Giants are not a team I'm going to try to make money with down the stretch. I'll leave it at that.
All right, Teddy, as we got Tennessee and Indianapolis up next, it is another early kick here, 10 a.m. Pacific, -4 in the hook. That is the Colts as the home favorite, 42 in a hook being the total. Titans at Colts next game up.
Yeah, look at line here, Indy -4.5, 43.5. My powering number, Colts -6. Markets open 4.5 and 42.5 last night, and that's basically what we're seeing today. There's even a prominent 4 that has popped up at a leading indicator book this morning. So the market's not excited about laying a price with Indy right now. What do you say about Tennessee? I mean, I don't know. So I don't know if we're going to see Will Levis again. You know, Will Levis, 4 turnovers yesterday. Was it 6 pick sixes this season? That's the most by a quarterback. And he finally got benched yesterday after, 8 of 12 for 89 yards and 3 picks. Mason Rudolph came in and was better. 21 to 26, 209, 2 touchdowns. Both teams finished with 5.8 yards per play yesterday. And Tennessee had 6 turnovers since they had 4. Tennessee had 12 penalties, 110 yards. Coach Callahan after the game, if you can't stop them on third down and you turn the ball over 6 times, it's going to be tough to win. It's been an absolute disaster of a season for Tennessee. And yet the markets are giving them a little bit of respect here in this game against Indy. The offense had 5 turnovers in Denver. Anthony Richardson had another rough game. No touchdowns, just 4.5 yards per pass attempt. He got sacked twice. I talked earlier about that Jonathan Taylor fumble at the 1-inch line. And again, they would have been up 20-7 in the third quarter if Taylor goes one more inch before dropping the ball. After that fumble, Denver outscored him 24-0, which is we're not responding well to adversity. Zach Taylor, quote, "That can't happen." The veteran, no, you're never consciously aware you're dropping the ball. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it. Denver, Jonathan Cooper, I should say, the pass rusher. Quote, "If he would have scored that touchdown, it would have been even more of a dogfight to get back. Would have a tougher fight. I just hope it never happens to us." Head coach Shane Steichen, quote, "That was a game changer." Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, it hurt us, but he's one of our leaders. Sometimes that happens in football. He's our guy, and that's what you say to him. Now, they got the Titans, Giants, and Jags in their last 3 games, but they're 2 games behind the Chargers for the number 7 playoff spot. They need LA to lose and keep losing. And, of course, now they lose the head-to-head tiebreaker with the Broncos as well. So yesterday's loss, very, very costly for the Colts. I think that's why this number is shorter than my power rating would indicate. Indy, pretty devastating defeat in yesterday's game, and not pretty how it happened.
Yeah, I'm picking up what you're laying down there with the Colts as we'll move down the list here, guys. 119, 120, the final early kick on Sunday. It is the Rams and the Jets, TC, and we are seeing the Rams -3. There is 3 and a hook out there as the road favorite, mostly -3 with juice. 47 being the total cross-country here, Rams at Jets.
Yeah, look headline, Rams -3, even money, total of 46. My power rating, Rams -3. The betting market's open, Rams -3 and 47. And what are we seeing today? Threes, as you mentioned, there are some 3.5s popping. There are also some 3 with juice, but it's mostly still 3 right now. So look ahead, my power rating, opener, and current number, all 3. Essentially, a total 47 at the opener for this one. And we're seeing 46.5s popping up and even a 46 out there as well. So a little bit of under money. LA did some things really well against San Francisco. McVay was committed to the run. Kyron Williams, another 100-yard game. They had 142 yards on the ground. Cooper Kupp, 0 catches, 0 yards. Offense worked enough. Puka, 7 for 97 in the ballgame. Sean McVay. What's really cool is this team has found a bunch of different ways to be able to win football games. You come off a 44-42 game the other day, and then you win 12-6. Our group did just what they needed to do to be able to get it done. So the Rams feeling pretty good about themselves. The Jets feeling pretty good about themselves. They got a win yesterday. Top 30 points for the first time all season. They had their first opening drive touchdown of the season. The offense found a rhythm. Devontae Adams. Oh, yeah. Today was one of those days in the second half. Definitely felt very, very similar to the way we used to get it rolling. Talk about him and Aaron Rodgers back in the day. The offense, 7.4 yards per play. Defense allowed only 5.5. That being said, Aaron Rodgers was the Jets' leading rusher yesterday, which is not what you want from your 41-year-old quarterback. They were life and death in a game where they had no Jets turnovers at all, and then Rodgers faced no pass rush. He was only sacked once. And Devontae Adams had the best game of the last 2 years with 198 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. The Jets defense still allowed 27 first downs and 421 total yards to Mac Jones and the Jaguars. Essentially torched for the second straight game. They couldn't hold the lead in that contest. And head coach Jeff Ulbrich showed us very clearly he doesn't understand the NFL. He doesn't understand clock management by putting his defense back out on the field after punching in the late touchdown instead of running the clock down before doing that. So none of those are positive signs necessarily for the Jets. See if they exhale after finally winning a ball game. Certainly the Rams clicking a little bit right now, but it is the West Coast team traveling east for that dreaded early start game.
Afternoon kicks up next, guys. 121, 122, Minnesota Vikings, Seattle Seahawks, as we are seeing the Vikings here, Teddy. -4, -4.5 is out there. 42.5 being the total. We've seen some under money as the Vikings going on the road to the Pacific Northwest to take on the Seahawks.
Yeah, look at headline here. Minnesota -1.5, total 45.5. I've got a Geno Plays power rating, which is Minnesota -2. Sam Howell, the backup, the former Commanders head coach. He was not good in relief of Geno yesterday. So 2 if Geno plays, 6.5 if he doesn't. I haven't seen Geno officially ruled out yet. The markets are kind of in the middle right now. 4.5 for this ball game. But like I said, my power rating number 2 with Geno, 6.5 with Howell. Markets 4.5 and 41. And we see the 41s, 41.5. Now we're seeing 42, 42.5, even a prominent 43 out there. So the markets have played this one over a little bit, despite the fact that Minnesota plays tonight against Monday Night Football. And in Seattle, we have QB question marks. But, the Vikings, 6-game winning streak, only 3-2-1 ATS during that span. If they look good on national TV tonight, they're likely to attract more betting attention here, especially if Geno doesn't play. And, Seattle was non-competitive against Green Bay yesterday. Geno got knocked out of the game. Sam Howell came in 14 pass attempts for 24 yards. But the offensive line struggled as badly as they've struggled all year. They allowed 7 sacks. They allowed 12 quarterback hits. The running game, which dominated against Arizona last week, this week, Zach Charbonnet just ate 54 yards on the ground. They only 14 first downs, 208 total yards, 3.7 yards per play. Linebacker Ernest Jones, quote, We know what type of team we are. We know what the goal is, what we're trying to accomplish. Playoff ball is just putting the emphasis on what we said early in the year that we all wanted to get done. Let's win the division, go in the playoffs, get a home playoff game, whatever the case may be. So even though Seattle looked bad last night, they certainly aren't, they're not a team tossing the towel by any stretch of the imagination. Head coach McDonald, quote, "I'll tell you this, Geno's probably the toughest player I've ever been around. It's severe enough for him not to come back in the game. We'll do all the tests tomorrow and kind of figure it out as we go. But right now, structurally, it looks okay. We've got to get it imaged and all of that stuff." So Seattle's still in first place in the NFC West. Geno may be able to play this week. His status likely to affect this point spread fairly significantly. Geno plays, it's going to come down. Geno sits, it's going to go up.
Interesting handicap. Up next is the San Francisco 49ers on the road against the Miami Dolphins. 125, 126, 425 Eastern kick here. It's 46 being the total. Dolphins minus 1.5. There is minus 2 out there as the home favorite. So it's 49ers going cross country here for the afternoon kick in Miami Gardens. 49ers at Dolphins here, TC.
Yeah, it's not an early kick for San Fran. It's a late kick, which is a factor. Look headline here, Miami minus 2. My powering number, Miami minus 2.5. The market's open 2.5, 46.5, and we've seen pretty steady San Francisco money, as you mentioned, down to 1.5/2, and mostly 46s out there, so a little bit under money as well. And both of these teams are coming off, losses at the end of their season, essentially. San Fran was supposed to fight the good fight against the Rams. Instead, they managed 2 field goals, 3.3 yards per play. The offense didn't work. I mean, Brock Purdy had 142 yards on 31 dropbacks, 191 total yards for the game. They got outgained by more than 100. They didn't even get to the red zone against the Rams. They're 1-4 straight up their last 5 games. The only win came against the Bears. They've scored 17 or less in all 4 losses. There's 4 times already this season that the Niners have lost to a division opponent after leading by at least a field goal in the fourth quarter. Fred Warner, listen to this quote. "It was the story of the year, just not doing enough to win games, not playing complimentary, just coming out a little too short. I always look for the past tense. When teams start using the past tense, that's a bet against." And when Fred Warner, it was the story of the year. That's just one of those that stuck out to me. Like, yeah, San Fran. And again, the whole Devondre Campbell situation where he wouldn't go into the game and suspended and cut and ripped by all his teammates. That's not positive team chemistry. San Fran's a difficult 10. Again, this is a team that came into the season with Super Bowl aspirations. They've been to the NFC Championship game 4 times in the previous 5 years, and now they're a sub-500 team in last place. These are not teams I asked to win games for me on the road in late season play. That being said, I mean, Miami did a lot of things right yesterday, and they did some awful. They had 4 turnovers, and they had 2 picks in the red zone, 1 at the goal line. The third came on the final drive, or the next one came on the final drive when Stingley ripped the ball out of Tyreek's hands. And then they allowed a fake punt that led to a touchdown. Their starting tackles were hurt in the game. Jalen Waddle got hurt in the game. And this was, my clients and I had a 5% big ticket on Miami yesterday. And the thought process for me was this team's going to fight. And if they fall behind, they will respond to adversity. And they did. They fought tooth and nail. They just made a bunch of mistakes. Houston didn't play well. Those 2 teams played 10 times. Miami's going to win more than half. But they made too many mistakes yesterday after the game. Tua, plain and simple, my fault. Yeah, it was, Tua. I got to protect the ball. I got to play better for our guys, especially in the situation where the team is counting on me to drive our offense to potentially tie the game up. That's not what I did. So both of these teams coming off pretty devastating losses that probably ended their seasons. We'll see which team is capable of bouncing back here. I can only take Miami. I'll tell you that right out. I want no part of San Francisco in this spot at this stage of the campaign.
Kick off the new year with an edge. That is the name of the special. Purchase a 30-day all-access pass for January, and we'll include the rest of December completely free. That does expire, this week, guys. So check out Teddy Covers, Drew Martin, great selections there for kick off the new year with an edge. You'll get the rest of December for free. All picks in all sports, handicapper of your choice. Teddy Covers, Drew Martin. NFL opening line report, final afternoon kick up next here, Teddy. It is Jacksonville and Las Vegas. We're seeing the Raiders minus 1 point home favorites, 40 being the total. Man, this is a tough handicap. Jaguars at Raiders from Las Vegas.
Yeah. Just one more. You talked about one of the great sports. I want to talk about one more. It's bowl season right now. I love bowl season. We had 70% in college football last December, and you can get my entire bowl season, $149, counting every play every day. We do have a 5% big ticket available right now for Texas Clemson. It is a game that absolutely stands out to me. I expect the cash. I expect the cash by margin. Get everything. Again, $149 right now on my page, WT.buzz/TC. And of course, I know I had a crappy weekend. Every weekend is not going to be crappy. That I will promise you. You can get 12 months, all access, just $99 a month. If I'm your guy, great opportunity to take advantage of that offer. So the Bowls package, the 12-month all access, and of course, by January, get the rest of December absolutely free. 3 great offers right now on my page, WT.buzz/TC. Jags and the Raiders. This is a pick your poison game. Look ahead line, Raiders minus 139.5. My powering numbers, Raiders minus 2. The market's open 1 and 39.5. We're seeing mostly more 40s than 39.5s this morning. Of course, the Raiders play on Monday Night Football tonight. They're 0-9 straight up their last 9, 3-6 against the spread in those 9 consecutive defeats. Let's give the Jags some credit. Mac Jones was a little bit better yesterday, 31 of 46, 294, 2 touchdowns. He did throw 2 picks, and the Jags scored 25 points, which is more than they put up in Mac Jones's first 3 starts combined when they scored 23. Jags got 400 yards of offense yesterday, only the second time all season they've gotten. That being said, the defense allowed 7 yards per pass, made Aaron Rodgers look like he was 23 years old, and didn't force a turnover. They scored a touchdown on their opening drive for the first time in 19 games. Doug Peterson hanging on to his job for now. Quote, Aaron's a great quarterback. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback. They made plays that we didn't make, and that part's unfortunate. Come down to just a couple of plays in your season or your game or whatever could be a little bit different. I mean, I'll give the Jags credit for showing fight. How much fight are they going to show on a trip to Vegas? Yeah. Do you want to lay with the Raiders? Yeah. This is not a game that I expect to be involved with, certainly not from a side standpoint.
We got Sunday Night Football up next, then the Monday Nighter. Fire away any questions in the live chat, also in the comments below. We'll answer them on next week's show. We get Tampa Bay and Dallas up next here, Teddy. It is the Buccaneers, minus 4-point road favorites, 49, 48 and a hook, 49.5 all out there as the total, as it's Buccaneers at Cowboys from AT&T Stadium, Arlington, Texas.
Look ahead line, Tampa minus 3.5, total 47.5. My powering number, Tampa minus 4.5. The market's open 4/4.5 last night. The markets have taken out all the 4, most of the 4.5. I think MGM still has one now. I don't know they will. 4 long. So we're seeing mostly 48.5 at the opener. We've seen over 49s, 49.5s popping up right now. Tampa's dangerous. Tampa's real. I'm mad at myself for not making money with Tampa. Really am. Baker yesterday, 22 of 27, 288 yards, 4 touchdowns, 10.7 yards per pass attempt. That's not some crappy defense he was going up against. That's the Chargers. Defense allowed only 5.9 yards per pass attempt. So 0 for 6 third down conversions. And the key has been the running game. Bucky Irving, Rashad White combined 30 for 181. That equals 9 of 15 on third downs. Third and short versus third and long makes all the difference. They outrushed LA 223-32 yesterday. They trailed 17-13 at halftime, had a 27-0 second half run out, 6 straight scoring drives, 5 in the second half. And they did that despite playing without their top 3 safeties. Antoine Winfield hurt, Jordan Whitehead hurt, Mike Edwards hurt. Mayfield, quote, we came into halftime and said if the offense didn't hurt ourselves, we'll be all right. The defense came out and stopped them. The offensive line took over. Was a complimentary football game. 400 yards of total offense and 150 rushing yards in 4 straight games for Tampa. They didn't punt in 10 possessions against the Chargers defense that had been giving up lowest in the NFL less than 16 points a game. They won the yardage battle by 300 yards in that contest. Todd Bowles, that's huge. It's December football. We're trying to stop the run. We're trying to run the football. Today, we did a good job. Tampa is showing bet-on signs and showing signs that they could be a contender into January, not just in December. As for Dallas, well, things went right for them yesterday. Cooper Rush, 18-29, 214 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, only sacked once. They ran the football. Rico Dowdle, 25 for 149. CeeDee Lamb at 9 catches for 116 yards. The defense forced 4 turnovers. They had 211 to 60-yard rushing heads. They look like a real football team. They punted their first 2 possessions and then scored 6 of their next 8 possessions. And the only exceptions, they had a turnover deep in Carolina territory, and then they tried a 70-yard field goal attempt before the end of the half that Brandon Aubrey missed. So you want to talk about the impact that Las Vegas has in the NFL? CeeDee Lamb talking about the odds makers listing Carolina as a favorite for the first time in nearly 2 years. Quote, "It was brought up," Lamb said with a wide smile. "You're not oblivious to what's being said about your team. Shout out to whoever thought the Panthers were going to win, but they got this one wrong." Micah Parsons after the game, quote, "It says we're not about to give up. As long as I'm part of this unit, we believe in each other. We're fighting for each other at this point. The record is a record, but it's a special feeling when you can fight for each other." So positive chemistry in Dallas for the first time in quite some time.
Like it, Teddy, as we'll flip the script here. Monday, December 23rd, the eve of Christmas Eve. Fun party night, usually. We'll see if the Packers fans are partying in Lambeau here, Teddy, as it's Green Bay hosting New Orleans. It is the Packers minus 13 and a hook here. Home favorites, almost 2 touchdowns, Teddy. 42 and a half being the total. Saints at Packers to end Week 16 opening line report.
We'll see if the Packers fans are partying on 2 days before Christmas. They're going to be partying 2 days before Christmas at Lambeau. It'll be cold. It's not Saints weather. One would anticipate, haven't seen a forecast, obviously. We're still talking about something that's a week away. But one would anticipate the late December football at night in Green Bay is not New Orleans weather. And so here's the situation. Okay, look headline, 13.5, 42.5. My powering number is only 12, and I'm not all that high on New Orleans. Markets open 13 and 42, and we're seeing 13.5, 42.5 in this ballgame. Now remember, my powering numbers are only Team A versus Team B, home field advantage. So it's never a scenario where my powering number is going to affect the situation. But obviously, in this situation, New Orleans at night in the cold, it merits some concern. It merits at least a point. So I'm not shocked that my powering number is short for this ball game. The betting markets know that the cold is worth something, and my powering number doesn't reflect that. That being said, the Saints, positive signs yesterday. 8 sacks on Jaden Daniels. They allowed only 4.4 yards per play. Spencer Rattler came in for Jake Hayner and rallied the team, multiple scores, and he led all 4 of their scoring drives. And then obviously they went for 2 at the end of the game, and it wasn't a particularly well-executed play. I don't think it was a great play call for Darren Rizzi and company. But they certainly battled, and the defense played well, and the offense moved the football. Rizzi talking about the 2-point conversion fail. Quote, "Just a mixture of emotions because we walk off the field with a loss. But I don't know now if I've ever been more proud of the team." He said, "I didn't regret whatsoever going for 2 at the end. I don't think the players regret it. They were all in favor of it. I just thought it was the right thing." That being said, they're 0-4 without Derek Carr, and I need one more loss for New Orleans, I say, to cash my 5% big ticket on the Saints under their season win total. So 1 loss in the last 3 games. We'll get there. We got there with the over on Arizona yesterday. We're already there with Dallas under. We've lost the Bills and we've lost the Broncos. So hopefully no drama at all. We're going to go 3-2 with the season wins. We take a 5% win with the Saints. We'll take a 4% win with Arizona. But I do need one more Saints loss. I'm counting on it Monday night. I don't want the straight up win here, I'll tell you that. The Packers, really impressive yesterday in Seattle. They allowed only 14 first downs, 208 total yards. Their only 2 losses in the last 10 games have come to the Lions. They haven't clinched a playoff spot yet. Jordan Love, quote, I like where we're at. We just got to keep figuring out ways to get better, keep pushing each other and find ways to get these wins to end the season off. But I like where we're at. Certainly Monday night at Lambeau, not necessarily going to be easy, especially if Josh Jacobs is running the football the way he did yesterday. Jacobs absolutely bullied Seattle at the line of scrimmage, and that could be a problem against a Saints team that's at times this year has been pushed around on the ground, although that certainly wasn't the case in yesterday's game.
Great stuff, Teddy. We got time for a couple questions here, guys. No bye week, so a lot of information given out. Shout out to James Mitchell asking, any chance you have Kyler Murray splits for grass versus turf? Feels like every time he steps outside, he stinks. I'll tell you this, Teddy, off the top of my head, I think this is one of the more underrated angles in sports betting, the turf and the grass outside and inside. I know it's factored in, like you were just talking about with the Saints. Sometimes I don't think it's factored in enough, though, Teddy. Any thoughts on that angle?
So it's certainly something a quick Google search will be able to track you down into. I don't have it in front of me. I apologize. I don't apologize. I'm not going to have those stats in front of me for this show necessarily. That being said, it's just, when you're talking about factors that are going to really affect a football team, I'm not with you, Drew, that surface is a huge deal, especially because there's all the different types of grass field. I'm not saying I'm not with you at all. I'm saying from my handicapping perspective, I haven't put a lot of time into it, a lot of thought into it. Again, we can handicap minutia all day. I try to focus on the bigger picture things, and if the turf is a factor, and maybe it is, then I'm clearly missing it.
Okay, Teddy. In yards per play, I think you brought it up twice in the show. This is one thing that I have a question for you, and you kind of hinted towards this. We'll read newsletters out there, guys, and some of them will just go over yards per play, this team, that team, and this team has the better one. But you also brought up the fact that some of that is like garbage time, and obviously that factors into yards per play. I think that stat is getting overrated in the betting market. And any thoughts there?
I agree 100%. That being said, when you're talking about how good teams are, we're talking about stats that wise guys use. Your most basic stat is yards per play and yards per play differential. And that has been a stat that every wise guy that I know that bets the NFL has used since I've been in Vegas, and it continues to be the stat they use. So when you find misleading numbers, you can take advantage because the wise guy support's going to be there. That's why, when you look at a situation like, who was it yesterday that outgained him 6.3 to 6.2? Was that the Giants or was it New England? I think it was New England against Arizona. And all their yards were garbage time yards. So you can take advantage of that. As a bettor, that's one of the little edges that can help you, hey, this stat's a little misleading. That stat's a little misleading. This team's a little bit better than we think they are. This team's a little bit worse than we think they are. That's why you make money in this league.
Absolutely. Okay, last one here. Star Child asking, would this line change on the Raiders depending on the Monday night game tonight? And of course, they're -1 against the Jaguars next week. Would this be a sit hosting the Falcons where you'd want to make two bets, Raiders, or look to fade them, Teddy?
Yeah, if the Raiders win this game, if you like the Raiders tonight, if the Raiders, then I would anticipate the point spread being higher than 1. I don't know that it's the same way the other, if the Raiders look awful, I still don't know the Jags are going to be a team that's the market's going to be like, oh yeah, let's bet on Jacksonville. But I will say this, if you do like the Raiders, it does make some sense. Take them tonight and then take them -1. If you like them on the money line, but that's only for a straight up win. If Atlanta beats them by a field goal, I don't think that's going to have the betting markets real excited about the Raiders enough to push this line up. So in my mind, Raiders money line correlates with Raiders -1 for next week.
All right, Teddy. And guys, remember the most exciting bowl season ever. Teddy read it out. Get every bowl game released. 37 days of college football action. Huge discount there, and that is available this week. We also got the kick off the new year with an edge. Purchase a 30-day all-access pass for January. You get the rest of December free. Teddy, both available there. We're going each and every Monday morning NFL opening line report. Teddy, I'll throw it over to you. Anything else you want to throw out there before we shut this down?
Yeah, so I want to talk about coming off a shitty weekend. I had an awful weekend. I burned myself. I burned my clients. Nobody's happy today. And the week before Christmas, you hate that. That being said, look, bad weekends can and will happen. That's why we practice bankroll management. And that's why I come on here every Monday, win or lose, and talk about what we're looking forward to the coming week. You have to be able to put the bad weekends, get them in the rearview mirror pretty quick, because the action starts up again the very next day. So I apologize, and I don't, bad weekend's going to happen. I'm like, it sucks. I really feel bad for clients that relied on me this weekend that I didn't get the job done for them. But I can't apologize too much. I'm trying, and we'll try again this week. Hopefully we'll do a little bit better. Thanks for hosting again, Drew. Always enjoy. There's always something cathartic about being here. Win or lose, like this Monday show allows me to, boom, you flip the switch on the previous week, and here we are focused on week 16. So I appreciate you, Drew. Thanks. And I appreciate you guys out there in viewer land. All the comments are, man, almost universally positive. I appreciate that very, very much. Merry Christmas. We'll do it again next week. What is the next Monday is Christmas Eve, so we're fine. Yeah, we don't have to worry about any rescheduling or anything like that. We'll be back again next Monday. We'll do it again New Year's. It'll be New Year's Eve, so it'll be perfect. The schedule actually works right for us to be able to do shows throughout the holiday season. So thanks for watching. We appreciate the likes. We appreciate the follows. We appreciate the comments very, very much. Good luck this weekend. Cheers.
Back at you, Teddy. I appreciate you. Got the notepad here with all the notes. I know a lot of people out there do as well. Guys, comment below. Smash that like button for Teddy Covers. I'm Drew Martin. We're checking out. We'll be back next Monday. Until then, cash those tickets. Thanks for tuning in.